A very good evening to all the viewers of the Mojo Story channel. My name is Barkha Dutt and we are looking at the big political story this evening. Nitish Kumar is back as Chief Minister, but his government doesn't quite look like what it's looked like all these years. For starters, there are two deputy chief ministers. Both of them are from the BJP and neither of them is Sushil Modi. Sushil Modi, the low-key deputy chief minister, has been widely dropped as was expected. We have two brand new deputy chief ministers signaling perhaps the BJP's plans to aggressively build its own base in the party. On the program today, we'll be asking what this new Nitish Kumar-led government in Bihar might look like. How is the BJP going to extract its political pound of flesh? And of course, what do we think of the RJD's Tejasvi Yadav deciding to boycott the swearing in, even as knives are out for Rahul Gandhi, both from alliance partner RJD, as well as from within the party, with lawyer politicians like Kapil Sibal lashing out at the Congress leader? Is this going to be just one more round of headlines till the Congress goes back to business as usual? Should the RJD have actually boycotted the swearing in? Let's introduce our guests on the program today, and over the course of the program, more people will be joining us as well. We have Shantanu Gupta, who's of course a right-wing ideologue, a supporter of the BJP and an author of Yogi Adityanath's biography. And we have two veteran political journalists with us, Radhika Ramasheshan, as well as Sabha Naqvi, both of whom spend a lot of time tracking the inside graph, as it were, of politics. And I'm also seeing on the program now Congress supporter Tehseen Poonawalla. Tehseen Poonawalla, welcome to the program. Like I said, this is a time when knives have been out for the Congress party. You have someone as seasoned as Shivanand Tiwari speak about Rahul Gandhi having been on a picnic instead of campaigning. Those are his words, not mine. And, RJD's Tejasvi Yadav, as I mentioned, has boycotted the election. Now, let's first take a look at the oath taking itself. And Shantanu, I'll start with you on this. The fact is that there are two deputy chief ministers, and given that the BJP has delivered this victory to Nitish Kumar, that is not surprising. Is it fair to say, would you agree that this is going to be a much weaker and much more diminished Nitish Kumar than we have seen all this while?
Hello. Yeah.
Yes.
I think Barkha, now there is a trend of to settle when there are two coalition partners, even within a party, be in Uttar Pradesh or be in YSR, who has made 5 deputy chief ministers, right? Because political stakes are increasing, politics has become competitive to settle every political community, so to say. You can say caste or gender. There's a trend of deputy chief ministers. I doubt there is any official post called deputy chief minister. So I doubt there is anything. There's too much to read into it because there is anyway no official post. But yeah, they will get important ministries. But good thing is that BJP is always keep building new leadership. How smoothly Nadda ji came in, and that day Narendra Modi said, "Nadda ji, aap aage chalo, hum aapke saath hain." He's not related to anyone. He came from Himachal, good karyakarta, pushed very smartly. I think that's BJP's way to build local leadership. And I think they're doing the same in Bihar by putting two deputy chief ministers, to my mind.
But you're contradicting yourself, because on the one hand, you're saying the deputy chief minister post has no meaning. What happened to poor Sushil Modi? What did he do wrong?
No, so he's not doing anything wrong. Maybe age is passing by. They maybe because his experience is good, they may call him in center and make one of the union ministers, right? So I think that's what I'm saying. BJP that way. If someone is enough spend enough time, he has been 15 years, he's been deputy chief minister to Nitish Kumar. Now they're giving chance to new leadership, and which is a good sign, right? For any political party, don't keep hanging to one person, keep moving on.
Okay, so would you say at least that this is going to be a very different Nitish Kumar-led government from all previous governments? Before I open this up for the panel, would you say that?
See, even I think we never heard any major friction between Sushil Modi and Nitish Kumar. The rapport was quite strong. I think it will be similar way. It will be similar way. He is still be a Sushashan Babu, and he's known for his governance. But yeah, BJP is also putting his house in order. In a lot of seats, BJP never fought elections, right? So administratively also, And I think politically also, they will also try to expand their base, and which is the right thing for any political party to do.
Okay, so the murmurs that we're actually really seeing, I think we all agree that this is going to be a much more diminished Nitish Kumar. The BJP is setting up to expand for itself in Bihar. It's almost got a perfectly calibrated result. But the murmurs that are really taking place are taking place within the Congress party, right? And we've seen Rahul Gandhi under attack. Just as the Bihar election was lost, also came Obama's scathing takedown of him in his memoirs. But here are some of the things that have been said about Rahul Gandhi in the last 24 hours. You have Shivanand Tiwari, an old timer, a supporter of the RJD, saying Rahul Gandhi was in a picnic instead of really working on the election campaign. This is the RJD actually boycotts the oath taking, and murmurs begin over why 70 seats were given to the Congress to contest at all. So Rahul Gandhi was on a picnic is the comment that comes from Shivanand Tiwari. And it doesn't actually end there. There are others. There's Kapil Sibal, for example, and this is what Kapil Sibal has to say, that the Congress is not introspected. It's not introspected in all these years. Sibal, of course, being part of that group of 23 that first took on the Congress leadership in a letter. That kind of ended in a whimper at that time. But is there going to be mutinous voices rising against the leadership in the Congress party? I think that is one of the big questions to ask at this moment today, as we're seeing Bihar take its consequences on national politics as well. There were others who joined the chorus that Sibal started. This is Karti Chidambaram, the son of former Home and Finance Minister P. Chidambaram, saying it's time we introspect, ideate, consult and act, seeming to endorse what Kapil Sibal had said. So there are churns that are taking place on both sides. There are churns that are taking place within the NDA, but not as dramatically perhaps as the knives that are in fact coming out on the side of the opposition. Let me get reactions. I'll start with Radhika and Sabha, and then I'll get Tehseen to react. Radhika, go ahead.
Yeah, if you're talking about the churn in the Congress, I think it went virtually unnoticed. But on the day the results came, Prithviraj Chavan said, it's high time we introspect. And he didn't really amplify or expand on that. So again, he's part of the 23 who wrote that letter. So, Congress really doesn't need a Shivanand Tiwari to kind of point out. I'm sure a lot of people must have been wondering what on earth was Rahul Gandhi doing in Shimla midway when when electioneering was gaining momentum. I mean, it's exasperating, Barkha, to say the least. We thought after Hathras, the siblings would kind of apply themselves, work on a sustained basis, at least in the Hindi heartland. But no, Rahul has to take his breaks, whatever for. And he didn't put in as much, even 1/4 of the hard work that Tejasvi put in Bihar. Why did he have to take a break? What did he ever think of what kind of a signal it's going to send? It merely reinforces the perception that he is not serious about politics, unfortunately. And one has to agree with what Obama said. I mean, extremely perceptive comments. So that's as far as the Congress goes. And Shivanand Tiwari's comments are significant in that the allies, both the present and prospective allies, are going to have a serious rethink on whether to go with the Congress or not. I do not see Stalin parting with too many seats in Tamil Nadu like he did the last time. If you remember, in 2016 as well, it was the Congress that pulled down the DMK alliance in Tamil Nadu. Otherwise, they would have come to power. In Tamil Nadu, it's virtually unheard of an incumbent government returning to power, but Jaya Jayalalitha did come. And that's only because the Congress fought a large number of seats, won only so many, and pulled the whole alliance down. Likewise, in Bengal.
So are you saying that we are going to be looking at a situation where allies are going to see the Congress as a liability?
Absolutely. To put it very bluntly, yes. They are going to see the Congress as a liability because it's happened again and again. Sharad Pawar has managed them okay in Maharashtra. For the life of me, I can't understand why Tejasvi had to give 70 seats to the Congress. I think probably Lalu intervened and kind of told him to indulge the Congress. And look what happened. It's all because of lack of application, lack of diligence, and a general tendency to take everything lightly when there is a bigger partner. Let the partner do all the heavy lifting. We will sit back. which is not the case with the BJP. The JDU was the bigger partner, but in these elections, the BJP put itself out and salvaged the situation both for itself and for the JDU in the second and third phases of electioneering. Okay,
right. So when we look at the developments that have taken place today, the dropping of Sushil Modi, the knives out for the Congress leadership. Sabah, a quick word, and I'll get Tehseen then to react to both what all three of you in fact have said.
So Sushil Modi is sort of a defeated chief minister who is there. He gets his fourth term. The fact that we cannot
you mean Nitish Kumar? You mean Nitish Kumar? You mean Nitish Kumar and not Sushil Modi, right?
I'm so sorry, Barkha. Nitish Kumar.
Yeah,
and
I was a bit confused for 2 minutes.
I'm so sorry. Yeah. Losing Sushil Modi is going to be a personal loss for him because they completely trusted each other. So this is the Bharatiya Janata Party, which has not actually won in terms of vote share. They have 19% of the vote share. But because they had these ghost parties up there, they were populating the bodies of other parties. If you look at Mukesh Sahni's 4 upper caste
what do you mean by ghost party? What do you mean by ghost
party?
What do you mean by ghost party?
No, BJP and let me finish. The BJP, RSS people stood from the platform of the LJP and from Mukesh Sahni's formation. I'll give you the numbers. The 4 people who have won are all upper caste people who have all been in the BJP earlier from Mukesh Sahni's party. So the BJP had a very interesting strategy. It is electorally a successful strategy. Not in terms, they had 19% of the votes. We can't deny that, right? So they are there, and they are now going to build themselves at the cost of Nitish. Nitish Kumar is the past. He has no future. He has himself declared that, that he has no future. On the other side, if you look at the Mahagathbandhan, I'll just make 2 points. There is a party called the CPIML, which has the best strike rate in the Mahagathbandhan. They have been on the ground right through without the big rallies. Even Asad Owaisi's 5 seats come from being on the ground for 5 years after a defeat. The Congress, so they're all noting that the Congress was not on the ground in Bihar. So what the Congress's strategy is, we get the seats, we get a lot of seats, and then Hawaii we win. That is their preferred strategy because they don't even have the structures, nor does the leadership have the motivation to be there day in and day out, which is what is required in politics. Why didn't Shivanand Tiwari is absolutely right. Why weren't they there making sure that at least Congress leadership put in an appearance in each of the 70 seats? To be fair to them, some of the 70 seats that went in their lot, some of them were seats which were considered BJP strong seats. Okay?
No, but Sabha, one of the Congress leaders, Supriya Srinath, made this point. I think Radhika was on the same program saying, we contested these seats, but most of these seats, nobody else was ready to contest, so we contested them. Arey bhai, why? Are you running a charity institute? Which political party contests seats that nobody else is willing to touch?
Yeah, absolutely. No, so I agree. And then that picture of Rahul Gandhi in Shimla, my God, it's a disaster. So let's see. I mean, nobody will. And there's been all this hype about Priyanka and Uttar Pradesh. It's not going to come to anything right now. Nothing. Yeah. You're losing Anu Tandon and all in Kanpur. People who do work in their constituencies, whatever be the controversy surrounding them, you're losing people like that. The fundamental lesson that you have to stick to the ground and just be there all the time. That's the only thing that gets you. And it's happening half our elections happen with diners. Okay. You have Stalin coming up next, but he's on the ground. They're working all the time. Tejasvi also was on the ground.
I think the thing is not about the dynasty, but how hard they work, how continuously they work. And Tehseen, you have spent a long time defending the Gandhis. There has to come a time when you are able to recognize what they're doing wrong. And the optics of Rahul Gandhi being on holiday, even if it was for 2 days, at his sister's house in the middle of a campaign is not lost on anybody. It gives in Asaduddin Owaisi, who took 5 seats, the opportunity to say, "Wo to har samay hi chutti pe rehte hai." It gives Shivanand Tiwari the opportunity to say, "Wo to picnic par the," right? It has become almost impossible for anybody to present Rahul or his sister as 24/7 politicians. Even you, with all your love for them, are not able to make that statement with a straight face.
I'm glad, Barkha, you can speak for me, and that's amazing. But just give me the time you gave the others, and I hope I'm not interrupted. A lot of things were said, and you will realize I'm one against a lot of opinions. So first, it's a very lazy analysis, and I have a lot of respect for Radhika. I really, really respect it a lot. But a very lazy analysis that Tamil Nadu we lost because of the Congress. You perhaps sitting in Delhi or wherever you haven't understood Tamil Nadu politics. In Tamil Nadu, unlike Uttar Pradesh or Bihar, where I concede to the point, Congress is a force multiplier, not a force divider. DMK contested the 2014 elections without the Congress in Tamil Nadu. What happened? They won 0 seats. So let's understand that the Congress in Tamil Nadu is a completely different ball game whatsoever. When you speak about the previous elections, it was the Madurai area where Alagiri and his son Azagiri actually led to the defeat of the DMK. Congress, yes, performed badly, but those seats were also, there was a division of votes. So let's understand what happened there before we get into the details. But I don't want to make this about Tamil Nadu or thing. And Sabha was partially right about Bihar. Congress did contest seats that were not winnable seats. But the reason Congress contested those seats, and that was a very conscious decision of both Rahul and Tejasvi, was because Congress wanted to improve its footprint in Bihar. Therefore, Congress contested those seats. Otherwise, the same allegation on your show, Barkha, would be the Congress and National Party is reduced to contesting just 40 seats. So it wanted to improve its footprint, and 10 seats the Congress lost in Bihar with less than 1,000 votes. 4 people who I supported in every possible way were declared winners from Congress. I'm not talking about the RJD guys, were declared winners, were told congratulations. They called me up saying, sir, I'm jeet gaye. After that, they were not giving their winning certificate, but I'm not going to get into these allegations. This is what happened. But let's not go there because we will not, because I don't want to cast aspersions. I completely admit to the point on the Congress needing to introspect. There is no two ways about it. You see, Barkha, one thing is that what the Congress needs to introspect about, and when I meet Rahul, I will talk to him about it whenever I do, the two issues. You see, they have to start making, even if they lose seats like those 30 seats where they made these people contest and they lost were not winnable seats, they need to start giving those seats to their kids who are loyal to the Congress or people who've been Karyakartas of the Congress for a long time. Giving kids seats to Shatrughan Sinha's son, Sharad Yadav's daughter. All of these people have no Congress ideology. Sharad Yadav made his career abusing the Congress, as did Shatrughan Sinha. I don't know what is Shatrughan Sinha's capability or his son's capability that he should have been given a Congress ticket. You could have given it to an NSU or an IYC kid. The second thing that the Congress needs to introspect on. In Jale, they gave the seat to that Usmani chap. It completely polarized the entire Mithila region in the third phase. And until the first and second phase, the Mahagathbandhan, if you analyze it, was ahead of the NDA. It is the third phase where the NDA goes way ahead. That's also the phase where the Prime Minister made the comment that Bharat Mata ki jai, Jai Shri Ram ke naare lagane nahi dete. Now, this kid, Usmani, in AMU, always was against Congress. Now, he's parachuted, he's given a Congress ticket. It just makes your NSUI children or your IYC children feel that they did this with Jignesh Mevani in Gujarat. He came and contested, he came and campaigned against Congress. They made Kanhaiya.
What is your point? What is your point?
My point is,
it's everyone else's fault.
I'm coming to my point. I'm coming to my point. No, you can't. Rahul can't move away. I'm not going to say that. I am saying
what is your point?
You have to.
Your point is that Usmani.
Please allow me to make my point. Don't speak for me. I'm
asking you a question.
I'm making my point.
The examples you've given so far, what do they add up to?
It adds up to the Congress has to keep an arm's distance from the left and from the right. I have a lot of differences with Shantanu and the BJP, but where I admire the BJP, Narendra Modi and Amit Shah is this. Look at Tejasvi Surya. The BJP backed this guy. He's today BYJ president. He's a member of parliament. He's younger than me. In 10 years, 12 years, he'll be a cabinet minister. They backed Anurag Thakur. The Congress, I am telling you this, Barkha, on your show. If I were to make a mistake today, Tehsin, and I'm not even a part of Congress. If I were to make a mistake today, let's say I made a mistake while tweeting, the same Congress will put out tweets and completely dump me. And no matter if I give my life for them. So the Congress has to do two things very importantly. Back their people to the hilt, like how BJP does. It got Maya Kudnani out of jail, damn it. Maya Kudnani, you have to back your people. Second thing you have to do, you have to stay away from the left. The left will destroy you and their vote share will increase on your. Now, let me, one last line. I request, one last line.
Performance in Bihar.
I am coming to that. One last line.
This, compared to your party's strike rate.
This D Raja who couldn't go to Rajya Sabha without Jayalalitha. This Sitaram Yechury who won't win a corporation election. Kavita Krishnan who won't win a corporation election. They are telling Congress how to contest elections. Kanhaiya won't win a corporation election. Please stay away from the left. Be center. Fight the right. Left will take Congress down. It will destroy Congress. This country despises the left. Be centrist, economically right, socially left, be centrist and fight the right. Tying up with the left will destroy you, their vote share will increase because the Congress upper caste people do not get the left votes, but the Congress voters vote for the left candidates. Mark my words in this. All Congress Bhumiyar candidates have lost. All of them. Why?
Okay, let's get reactions now. I think you're making a kind of complicated point because you're saying ideological. Let me try and summarize. Shantanu, what I'm understanding from what Tehseen is saying is it's not so much how the left is done on the ground in Bihar, but the kind of pan-India perception of the Congress as a party of lefties is what is actually hurting it. Radhika was also on the program last couple of days when Supriya Srinate and Rajat Sethi had a huge fight because Supriya Srinate gave Bharat Mata Ki Jai as an example of a communal slogan, right? So it isn't just Usmani Tehseen. There is a kind of confusion in the ranks of the Congress on how to position itself on the key questions of nationalism, on politics framed around nationalism as the BJP has quite successfully managed to do. So let's talk a little bit more, in a more complex way than we are, because the left's own performance is quite actually effective. Shantanu, go ahead and take that.
I think I want to comment Tehseen that how beautifully he saved Gandhis again. I think the debate was all about the debate.
And they still don't give me anything.
The debate was all about.
I'm glad you're being so honest, Tehseen.
Yeah, that's what Tehseen is honest about.
At least there's some logic to your blind defense. I was beginning to worry for you, but at least it's transactional. But chaliye, Shantanu, make your point.
I think
it's love.
We were discussing why Rahul Gandhi is so dishonest about his politics, why he's only flirting with the politics, why he's not a 24/7 politician, only a weekend politician. And Tehseen has surrounded around how tickets are not given, right? I think I want to bring back to Rahul Gandhi's example, and Tehseen gave two examples, the Tejasvi Surya and Anurag Thakur. While Tehseen was speaking, I checked the parliamentary data of these two gentlemen and Rahul Gandhi. Just check the attendance right now, 85 to 90%, both these BJP gentlemen, 40 to 50% to Rahul Gandhi. Their questions, Anurag Thakur is asking 300 questions to his own government, and Rahul Gandhi is asking 9 questions, 5 questions to the opposition government, right? His number of debates, 5, 6, where these two gentlemen, Anurag Thakur and Tesuriya, 50 plus debates, right? Private member bill, I doubt Rahul Gandhi even doesn't know about private member bills, right? So I think they're not even serious about their politics. Can't you even sit in the parliament? When in Amethi, his visits to Amethi was hardly any. So I'm saying if you're outside India, if you're in Shimla, out of 70 seats, you visited only 3 rallies. I think that's the problem. Like you don't even have a full-time president. I think that's the problem, that their house is not in order.
Let's come back to the Congress in a moment. Let's welcome to the show Abhishek Jha, leader of the Janata Dal United. Abhishek, आज आपके नेता और आपकी सरकार की दोबारा ओथ टेकिंग हुई दो डेप्यूटीज के साथ. हम यहाँ बात कर रहे थे कि ये जो सरकार है, this particular JDU government, इसमें BJP will be the dominant partner. Has your party made its peace with this fact कि ये जो जीत है ये मोदी जी ने आपको दी एक थाली पर रख के?
See, Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi is the biggest face of NDA in the entire country. But the NDA was fighting this election on the face of Nitish Kumar. In various surveys also, Nitish Kumar was the most popular and acceptable face as the chief ministerial candidate. He has done a lot for the progress and development of Bihar. And I wanted to mention one thing, that our seats are less in comparison to the BJP because we have seen a prime reason for this. Because there was a party and there was a leader who was into some kind of depression or into some kind of trouble with, especially with JDU, and they gave candidates just against the JDU, and just their party resulted to be a vote katwa party. Chirag ne Bangle mein aag laga di, and that was a prime reason why we lost so many seats. If Chirag Paswan would not have done so, our seats would be higher and the RJD seat would be much lower, even lower than 40. So we believe that we are working like together like allies in the Gathbandhan, and there's no like Bada Bhai and Chota Bhai. We are working for the progress of Bihar, and we are very hopeful that in this upcoming tenure, under the leadership of Nitish Kumar, the government of NDA will work so well for the development of people of Bihar, and we can.
आपने कहा कि कोई बड़ा भाई छोटा भाई नहीं और चिराग पासवान ने घर पे आग जला दी। मैं रोज जनता दल यूनाइटेड के नेताओं से पूछती हूँ, प्रवक्ताओं से पूछती हूँ कि ये आग बीजेपी की सहमति के बिना तो नहीं लग सकती थी। इट्स लाइक बीजेपी थे फायर इंजन में, बीजेपी थे फायर सर्विस, वो आग बुझा। आई नो शांतनु यू आर वांटिंग टू कॉन्ट्रडिक्ट, मुझे सवाल पूछने दीजिए। द बीजेपी कुड हैव पुट आउट दिस फायर, द बीजेपी कुड हैव बीन द फायर इंजन पुटिंग आउट द फायर।
The top leadership of BJP, whether it be on the national level or on the state level, have made a very clear stand on this topic. As you can see, जब प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी की आप बात कर ले, अमित शाह जी की बात कर ले, आप जेपी नड्डा साहब की बात करिए, यहाँ पे जो भी लोग थे उन लोगों ने स्पष्ट किया कि लोजपा का भाजपा के साथ कोई लेना देना नहीं है। लोजपा को कई बार भाजपा के शीर्ष नेतृत्व द्वारा समझाया गया था, लेकिन पूर्वाग्रह से ग्रसित ये लोग बस एक ही इंटेंशन लेकर चल रहे थे। और बड़े ही आश्चर्य की बात है कि कोई पार्टी विचारधारा पर चुनाव नहीं लड़ी, वो पार्टी
और ये सुशील मोदी को जो ड्रॉप किया है, जनता दल यूनाइटेड का इस पे कोई राय है? तो वो बीजेपी के लीडर, लेकिन आपकी कोई राय इस पे?
देखिए, हमने पहले ही अपनी राय स्पष्ट की है कि किन्हें डिप्टी सीएम बनाना है, यह भाजपा का आंतरिक मामला है, आंतरिक निर्णय है। उन लोगों ने निर्णय लिया, 2 लोगों को बनाया डिप्टी सीएम। हमारा जो प्राइम कंसर्न है वो यही है कि आने वाली सरकार, चुनौतीपूर्ण अभी माहौल है हमारे लिए कि बिहार की जनता ने चौथी बार अपना मैंडेट दिया है नीतीश कुमार जी के नेतृत्व में। हम काम करने को लेकर फोकस्ड हैं और इस मामले पर भारतीय जनता पार्टी को जो डिसाइड करना था वो लोगों ने किया।
चलिए, Shantanu, you want to respond, and then I want to return to what's happening in the non-BJP parties. But I think this question of the BJP playing the role of the fire engine, the fire service, the fact that the BJP is now going to be clearly expansionist in Bihar, and why not? Why not? Nobody's making a judgment on that.
That you should give to every party. Every party should be expansionist. But again, anyone who puts the argument that BJP has planted LJP, this is political naivety. Nobody will do that, right? A party which is 4-5% vote share, why they will go against a JDU which is on a worst case of 15-16% vote share party? और पहले से वो इतना calculate करके नहीं बैठेगा. Nobody will sit in such a calculation that exactly the seats will come. I think this, if this is planted, this could have hurt BJP NDA big time, right? So nobody will do such a political gimmickry. I think this is just our on hindsight. We keep doing all analysis, we keep doing this calculation. But anyone in right mind will not put a LJP as a mold that okay, you cut into the vote share. What if JDU might have got only 15 seats because of the harm by LJP?
Okay. And let's step back and look at the message that is emerging for politics in general, where the BJP's predominance is. I think nobody questions that. Tehseen made the point about wrong decisions in ticket distribution. Radhika, it is just not that simple, because when Tehseen makes the point कि सारी गड़बड़ यही हुई कि कांग्रेस को लेफ्ट से दूर रहना चाहिए, that might be true in a pan-India context, but in the Bihar context, the left with its committed cadre is actually the second big winner of this election in terms of its strike rate.
Absolutely. I mean, the statistics are staring us in the face. In Bengal, the Congress is about to have, nearly about to have an alliance with the left. The left has been part of the DMK coalition in Tamil Nadu. So if the Congress is indeed so allergic to the left, then why hasn't it stood its ground and said, no, nothing doing, we don't want the left in any of these coalitions? And left, by the way, was the biggest pillar of support to UPA 1. Let's not forget that. I mean, they fell out eventually on the Indo-US nuclear deal. That was another story. But for the larger part of Dr. Manmohan Singh's first tenure, the left was the bulwark for the government. So, you know, when it suits the Congress, it has taken the left support. And what is this business about losing seats? I mean, there is nothing like a losing seat and a winning seat. A seat is a seat. And if the Congress had fire in its belly, it would have made a fight of every seat. You know, I don't really buy this argument. You can't
or not taken the seats that, not fought for the seats that
that they thought were winnable. You know, after all, they did win 27 seats last time. I mean, that's not the point. You can't just get Wayanards and Raibarelis all the time. Yeah, that's number one. Number two, I mean, there was a common complaint. But I've also been speaking to your state Bihar representatives that they were not in the loop. I mean, the whole thing was being managed by the paratroopers from Delhi, who probably had no idea of what was happening on the ground. There was lack of coordination. I think if there was a problem at all, it was probably lack of coordination between the Congress and the allies. That includes the left as well. The left is not such a sticking point as it was the lack of coordination. And as for your ideology, economy to the right, and the Congress has been tilting slightly towards the left, only to take on the BJP. Rahul Gandhi's constant refrain is "Soot Boot Ki Party, party of the rich," and so on. So where is your right ideology as far as economy is concerned?
Let's get Tehseen. Sorry, Congress is
ideologically confused, Barkha. There's always been a Hindutva strain in the Congress right from the 80s, from the famous Shilanyas and Shahbanu episode. There has always been a strong pro-Hindutva strain in the Congress. At times it is ascendant, at times it is not. It takes a back seat, but the problem with the Congress is it cannot make up its mind which way it wants to go. And that's partially reflected in what Mr. Puriwala said.
I think that is very well put. Tehseen, can we go one by one? I want to put up 2 slides on your screen and I want you to comment specifically on them. This here is Kapil Sibal. The Congress is not introspected all this time. Why will it introspect now? I'm just taking an excerpt from his interview to the Indian Express. Your specific comment on Kapil Sibal.
He's right. You should listen to him. It needs to introspect.
So you think it has reached that point, right?
Okay. You should, of course.
Now let me bring up another slide here. This is Karti Chidambaram echoing what he said. It's time we introspect, ideate, consult, and act. Now the important thing is that Kapil Sibal was among the 23 people who believed the leadership issue in the Congress has been left open for too long, and now you have people pouncing on Rahul Gandhi saying, look, you didn't even give it your all in this election. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm very fond of Kartikeya, great guy. But Kartikeya should also introspect. Mr. Chidambaram, in the middle of the elections, made a comment that in the middle of the Bihar elections, when Himachal was going to polls in the third time made an election, made a comment that when Congress comes to power in the center, 370 would be restored. Okay, PM Modi used it. Chidambaram ji, when he was Home Minister, sent Anna Hazare ji to jail, in the same jail where Mr. Kalmadi was. I am just trying to say that these are not politically smart decisions. I have a lot of respect for Kartikeya. He's a great guy, and for Mr. Chidambaram. But these are lawyer statements. They're not political statements. So that should also be introspected. I want to come to something that Radhika ji said. I never said the Congress should be right religiously. I said socially it should be left. Yeah, economy, it should be right. And the reason I'm saying economic, it should be right, is no person has destroyed this country more than Shri Narendra Modi ji in the last 7 years by being the most left person who's been prime minister in the last 20 years. His decisions of centralizing everything have actually taken India backwards, and our economy is contradicting. If the Congress wants to come to power, it needs to reinforce that to the small and middle businessmen that they will have ease of doing business. At the same time, it needs to reinforce to the minorities, to the SC, STs, that there will be cohesive unity. So I'm talking about, I'm not asking it to be religiously right, but I want to make another point. Look, here's the thing. I agree with what Radhika ji said about the leadership being paratroop. You have to understand one thing, Barkha. Every time the Congress is in a situation where it's not doing well, it's the same people who are being given the responsibility again and again and again. You see,
but what about the people at the helm of the responsibility? What do you think about Rahul Gandhi being on? Please talk about the chutti. Please talk about going to his sister's house in the middle of an election. As a journalist, I would not go on chutti in the middle of an election. He's a politician.
Please
tell us this. It is an absolutely absurd thing, and it speaks to, not that I really care about Obama's opinion per se, but the fact that he got it so accurately. The fact that the words were so accurate, the fact that they were so eloquent, the nervous, unformed quality, the fact that he's an eager beaver student who seems to lack either the passion or the commitment. Tehseen, it is time.
He never used the word commitment.
Are chalo, I'm paraphrasing. Passion and aptitude. Okay.
Aptitude.
Yeah. So let me speak on that. Thank you.
I want
Actually, I'm glad.
Speak about that holiday. Please speak about that holiday in the
I
middle of
genuinely don't know that. I genuinely don't know much about that. I really don't know why he went to Shimla. I'm not aware of it. If I was, I would. I'm not aware of it. Like I said, I haven't spoken to him in a recent past. When I do, I will. But I don't know about the Shimla thing. I can speak about the Obama thing because I read about it.
But
I think
what do you
Obama
think about the fact that he went on a holiday? You don't have to speak to him.
He
What do you
didn't
think
go on.
about it?
Why is
He went on a
what's-
2-day break. The Tribune reported the story. He was in Himachal. Are you saying I'm lying?
No, I'm not saying you're lying. I am saying I'm not aware of something. You're asking me to comment on something I'm not aware of. If the Tribune reported that he was in Himachal and Shimla, he may have gone for work, he may have gone for some other work. Ultimately, Congress had a government in Himachal, and it will have a government very soon. The Himachal government is forming directly. So I don't know why he'd gone. Has this itinerary been put out? As anything that he was holidaying? I mean, I don't know if he's in Himachal. It's a Congress state where Congress is the main opposition party.
No, it's not. It's a BJP state. It's not a Congress state.
I know, but it's the BJP government is very ma'am. I understand Mr. Thakur is the chief minister. I also understand it's a very unpopular government, and I also understand that the Congress has good chance of coming back to power in the next election. So maybe he's gone for work. I don't know why he went. I did not read his itinerary.
He was preparing ground for a.
It's a little bit like
election, which is like 2 years away. Wow.
No, Tessie, you are really.
See, I can talk about what I am aware of. Barkha, I can talk about what I'm aware.
Can I ask you as an analyst?
Can I make my? You didn't allow me to answer.
Yes, but with one question of mine. As a supporter of the Gandhis, do you think the optics of that was smart?
I don't know, because I don't know why he went. Maybe he went for a Congress meeting. I'm not aware of it. If I'm not aware of something, I can't answer on that. But I concede to your point with regards to optics. Now, this is where I want to come in, and I want to see. You see, Amit Shah has Bhupinder Yadav and JP Nadda around him, who are phenomenal workhorses for him, and they do the work. Rahul Gandhi does not have a Bhupinder Yadav or a JP Nadda who can take the load for him. Rahul Gandhi is doing the heavy lifting. I want to ask those people who criticize Rahul Gandhi day in and day out, how many of those people were in Bihar to campaign? Rahul went to campaign. How many of them went? How many of them went to Jharkhand to campaign? I am telling you this, and I'm saying this on record, and you may check this with Hemant Soren. Rahul Gandhi, personally, Hemant Soren's brother was campaigning. Congress had a candidate in Jharkhand, was aware, was involved. You can check with Tejasvi, he was involved. How many of those who criticize him do the heavy lifting? Rahul does the heavy lifting. With Amit Shah and Narendra Modi, Bhupinder Yadav does the heavy lifting. JP Nadda does the heavy lifting. And you know it, Barkha. I know it, Barkha. Everybody does it. Rahul doesn't have it. The team next to him, the second run team, is quite honestly a batura and a disaster.
Let me just get a quick response from Abhishek, and then Shantanu and Radhika can respond to this. Abhishek, the perception ki Nitish, हमारे शो पे आपके आने से पहले सभा नकवी थी, वो उन्होंने बोला Nitish is a thing of the past. Nitish is finished. That this is a weak Nitish, and many people believe that Nitish should have actually morally said, this vote is not for me. I will not be chief minister. ऐसी कोई बात क्या पार्टी में हुई, or was it just an automatic that Nitish Kumar would be chief minister? And do you believe this government will last its term with Nitish Kumar as chief minister? Just 1 second, I'm just unmuting you. Give me half a second. Yeah, go ahead.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
लोग लाख कह लें कि भाजपा और जदयू में दरार है, लेकिन भाजपा और जदयू में मजबूत करार है. Whatever the opposition says, it is just a part of the satta vilas they are doing. And the other thing is that Honorable Nitish Kumar ji in his speech also mentioned, when he was talking to the media also, he told that he was not willing to be the next chief minister of Bihar, but he had a pressure from the BJP side that the next chief minister should be Mr. Nitish Kumar. Actually, what has happened that prior to the election, as you can see, the leader of NDA in Bihar was Nitish Kumar, as per the declaration. So he had to take the oath like the chief minister of Bihar. And the opposition is just saying that as our seats are lesser in comparison to the BJP, or we have lost so many seats, so Nitish Kumar should not take oath like chief minister. But the people of Bihar have given a very clear mandate to NDA, and with a proper majority. And as I was talking earlier also, that if LJP would not have created such kind of nuisance, then the seats of NDA would be much higher in comparison to what we have achieved till now. So So we believe that
we have about 5 minutes left. I want concluding remarks on what all five of you think is the big lesson for politics, because there is a Bengal coming up. There is going to be some kind of ripple effect. There is that perception that regional parties are now the only opposition that you have in India, but then Tejasvi Yadav kind of slipping into this near political sulk is not necessarily also going to send the right signals. So I'll start with you, Shantanu. The big lesson from Bihar, according to you.
I think first of all, you have to work hard. Politics have become very competitive. I think elections are won by small margins. I remember in 2017, Rahul Gandhi was sitting in, I think, one of the universities in America, and he was saying India will run on dynasty, and he was supporting it. And that day, coincidentally, Amit Shah was in the house of a Karyakarta in Bengal. And we saw in 2019 what happened in Bengal. And we'll see in 7-8 months what will happen in Bengal assembly election. So you have to be very competitive. You have to strategize. I was with Sunil Bansal, the Sangathan Mantri of UP 3 weeks back. He was talking about Uttar Pradesh election of 2022, that how I have a cadre of my own cadre, I have a cadre of beneficiaries of government schemes, and how we can cater to them. So I think point number one. Secondly, I think we, through the Nitish Kumar example, we also learned how Uddhav Thackeray lied from his mouth. I think how, even being a bigger party, if it was decided Nitish Kumar be the chief minister, he is the chief minister. So I think coalition dharma should be followed by everyone, from JDU to BJP to Shiv Sena.
So two interesting comments on the live stream. One is one comment that says we are dangerously close to being a one-party democracy. This is one audience member saying this, and another one saying Congress does the same thing over and over again and expects a different result. This is the definition of stupidity, right? So I think these two comments really struck out for me. I want Abhishek to talk a little bit about what is the lesson for the Janata Dal United. Abhishek, there must be lessons for you guys as well. You may have formed the government, but not without a beating. So what is the lesson for you?
See, the important lesson is given by the people and the voters of Bihar, that a party should not try to make fool of the people by making fake promises like Tejasvi Yadav made earlier, that he is going to give a job to 10 lakh people.
What is the lesson for you? What is the lesson for you? You are
we have got a lesson that no. Now, it is a lesson for us that some other tried to spread some kind of confusion about our coalition or about our party or about our way of work or our leadership. Someone tried to spread a confusion, and we thought that this confusion would not spread to a larger extent, but something happened, and then we lost so many seats. That was like a lesson for us that we need to connect more to the people on this regard. We do connect with people on the matter of work or of any other matter, but on this aspect, people got confused, and sometimes we lost our seats.
The lesson for the Congress?
I think the most important lesson for the Congress is that it needs to understand what one of your viewers, what you rightly said, that India is heading to become a one-party rule, and that's not democracy, that's dictatorship.
No, one-party democracy. That phrase was one-party democracy because that party keeps winning elections. The Congress held that position for 60 years. Now maybe it's the BJP dominance era.
Yeah, but I don't think there's much of democracy in what the BJP is doing. So I think the Congress owes it to the
fair and square. You can talk about institutional freedoms, and that would be a separate conversation, but not in the context of elections. But go ahead.
I mean, that's another debate to be on some other day. But my larger point is the Congress owes it to this country, and it owes it to people like me who vote for it, to get up, smell the coffee, and to start winning elections. And it needs to be a little more sensible. It needs to not give up on the idea of nationalism, and it needs to take the bull by the horns. I think what the Congress is doing is making strategic mistakes. I think the Congress needs to change its approach a little bit.
Okay, I'm going to give Radhika the last word. Radhika, what do you see happening from here? The same old in the Congress, or do you think that this is an inflection point? And there have been so many inflection points that have been entirely missed by the party. That is it going to go the same way?
Yeah, I don't think this is really an inflection point for the Congress. You know, the inflection point ought to have been the letter written by those 23 leaders, but that just kind of passed by. So the point is that both the BJP and the Congress, that are considered mainline parties, should be honest and transparent as far as alliances are concerned, because both of them need allies. Let the BJP not fool itself by thinking that it's in a position of preeminence and it doesn't need allies. Of course, it needs allies. The point is that no matter what Shantanu says, that the BJP did use Chirag Paswan to fix Nitish. It thought it was a calibrated tactic. It went a bit awry, and it had to sort of it had to kind of step in and do some damage control later. Same thing with the Congress. Congress has to be clear. I mean, you don't want to go to with the left because the left is this, the left is that. The point is that the left does have a base in certain places where the Congress is being forced to do business. So the Congress has to have that kind of an ideological, strategic clarity, which it is lacking, quite apart from other things, you know.
Yeah.
So I think this is the lesson from Bihar for both the parties.
And Monica Call, one of our viewers, says is a new term for the Congress, defeat fatigue. So I think that is an interesting way to actually describe it, that it's got so accustomed to losing that it's almost numbed by a series of defeats. But can it afford that? Because really, it is an existential issue at the moment before the party. Also a diminished, whether Abhishek likes it or not, an extremely diminished Nitish Kumar, an extremely weakened Nitish Kumar. If anything is the lesson from the party, one, that politics is 24/7, 365 days a year, and two, this is really the age of the dominance of the BJP, and there doesn't seem to be any national narrative or leader that has emerged to take that on thus far. And even within states, the Modi factor seems to be able to tip elections. So this is, I think, the conclusions we're left with. We leave it there. Abhishek, Tehseen, Radhika and Shantanu, and before that, Sabha, and to our audience, of course, thank you for watching. See you
Thank
tomorrow
you.
at the same time. Thank you and bye-bye.
Bye.